Hello, everyone. Hello, friends, for my fellow Mr. Robot fans. I wanted to speak to you about a series that I'm starting. This is the first in the series. I'm entitling it Pain and Mortality, The Gift of Acceptance. And this is number 1 in the series. You'll hear more about this. What I want to do with this video and those that follow is to help people understand that what it can be like for people in America. I am an example, certainly not the only example, but I am an example of what can happen when the healthcare system is not accessible anymore or it breaks down. In my case, I functionally have no access to healthcare anymore. That includes pain meds and everything else. I could theoretically go to the ER for treatment, but that's life-saving stuff. It's designed to be, the ER is designed to be an invasive thing where they save your life and they go to great lengths, and you're strapped up to this and you have this needle in. And last time I was in earlier this year, I had 2 different IVs and heart monitors, and that's not a place I want to be. The reason I'm out of the healthcare system is because I did have a lot of healthcare earlier in 2017. I was coded as terminal in February, March when I was in the hospital, not expected to live, and surprised everyone. My doctor, I think, wrote me up in a paper somewhere about, I shouldn't have been able to live, but did. There's a level of stubbornness within me on some level, and I've managed to keep going. But as a result of that, while I have Social Security, I have, I have Medicare. I have a really lousy Medicare Advantage plan, which has given me access to medications in the past. But, I chose the Advantage plan so I would have less out of pocket for medications, but it ended up meaning that most or many of my medical bills were not covered or covered woefully inadequately, and I owe thousands and thousands of dollars that I can't possibly pay to 2 different hospitals and a whole collection of doctors. And I have a great specialist that I've needed to be referred to for gastroenterology finally. My former guy retired years ago. I've been overdue for years for procedures. Finally got them earlier this year, and now he understandably does not want to treat me anymore until I pay off the hundreds of dollars that I owe him. His is a reasonable position in a for-profit healthcare system, so I don't in any way blame him. He's operating in the rules of the system, and I get that. But what all that means is, for all my various doctors, there's really no access to those resources. And so I have gone off all my meds for medication for pain. I have a Tylenol, which is really the placebo effect. It's the act of taking something, hoping that maybe, thinking about that maybe will have an impact on how my body processes pain. And frankly, it usually doesn't. But it's the idea that it might make a difference. If I take enough of it, 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams a pop, once a day, it can make a dent. So there's that. But the reason that I'm sharing my story is this. With the law that is likely to pass, with the so-called Tax Reform Act, that is something that is going to cause a lot of people to lose their health insurance, both the obvious ones that people may have heard about, and also because there will be a knee-jerk reaction in the law. Once this law passes, there will be this immediate recognition, and this is based on law that they're not really talking about in most cases unless you dive deep into policy wonk and hear about this. There'll be this horrifying realization of, oh noes, we increased the deficit. That means that, according to this and this and this, we have to cut entitlements now. Well, entitlements include things like Social Security disability, and I'm in that category. I have a stipend from Social Security that allows me to survive, and it is based on me being disabled. And I had to fight for 4 years to prove that, and I had to get an attorney. And I'm not living high on the hog. I exist, and it's enough. I survive. I have a home. I have a housing voucher, so there's another entitlement. But I don't consume much. I don't spend much because I don't have much. I don't aspire to things I don't have. And I wanted to share my story with you, and be willing to have that what comes with that, the possible, I have no expectations of any responses other than perhaps the right-wing trolls who show up and basically tell me to get bent, and so I'm ready for that. But I'm entitling this series Pain and Mortality. And bear with me while I read this from my screenshot. I had tried to upload a version of this last night, and it got rejected by YouTube because it was 5 seconds too long. And again, I'm entitling the series for now Pain and Mortality, the Gift of Acceptance. This is my journey as I live out my final days in pain, without medical care or medication. I choose to share the authentic experiences. While I don't celebrate the circumstances, I do accept them. In so doing, I further open my heart to the gift of humility. My goal is to dwell in a place of love and compassion throughout this journey, wherever it may lead me. I am disabled, formerly a geek and administrator. After becoming unable to work 9 to 5 in 2002, I devoted myself to spiritual studies while I fought for years to get Social Security disability income. In addition to years of small classes and self-study, I completed a year-long Multi-Cultural Shaman apprenticeship in 2005. Later, I also twice trained as a peer counselor and interned at Highline Mental Health. In parentheses, I'm also an ordained clergy. That and $5. I'm also a Reiki Master. All of that and $5 might get me a cup of coffee, if it's, on the cheap. I hope to work that material, meaning the, I need to back up. I was asked to develop class material and facilitate for 8 weeks on the subject of spirituality and wellness while I was at Highline. I hope to work that material into a manuscript soon, as it was well received by the patients and because there was a lot of buzz about it at a statewide conference that year. I went to conference and had people I had never met come up to me and say, "Hey, oh, you're that Joanne Kerr. Did you write the rabbit?" Yeah, who are you? So it was a little I got into a little bit of a tussle with Highline because they wanted to try and keep my curriculum and the material I developed for them. And it's like, no, the contract I signed with you, I'm unpaid. You're not hiring me for a paid position. There's nothing in the contract that allows you to own the intellectual property that I developed. I was happy to, I'm happy to come and facilitate it for you anytime, but we need to have a conversation about what that looks like. So, I kept the content. I had to rattle my sword a little bit, but I did, and I hope to develop that into a manuscript with the time I have left because I think it has value. It's very multicultural in its approach. One need not even have a belief in God to benefit from the point of view. So I'll be talking about that more, I hope. Anyway, my goal in doing these videos is to raise awareness of what it can be like for a person living in poverty, cut off for whatever reason from medical care, including pain medication during a profound health crisis. Mine is not the story, merely a story. Especially with draconian cutbacks in healthcare, particularly to children and others most vulnerable, I think it may be helpful for people to see what the real-life impact can be. I tell my story from a place of love, hoping it will help others whom I'll never meet. Note, this is not intended as a plea for assistance. I'm certainly not fundraising. If you feel moved to help, reach out to those in your community who need assistance. Contact your elected officials and love with abandon those closest to your heart. Namaste. And for now, I will close. Today is a day that I, You can see I look kind of human today. I'm meeting my daughter. I haven't seen her in months, and she has no idea how bad things are. I've got makeup on. Oh my God. I could actually pass for a human being today. That is usually not the case. And my goal today is to be with my daughter, and she says she has good news to share. She and her partner, I'm going to guess either they're getting married or they're having a baby, or maybe both. So she said it was good news, and she wanted to share it with me in person. So today is about, them and celebrating with them, and by any means necessary, not letting her see how sick I am, and not letting her see how much pain I'm in. And because I dissociate, I'm no longer DID, but I do have the ability to dissociate, so take the pain and just kind of go use it over here in my mind, and I'll come back to you later for periods of time. It takes a great deal of focus, but it can be done. That ability has served me well throughout my life. It's been mandatory to keep me alive in my earlier lifetime, my childhood. So most of the time I'm in a ever increasing spiral of pain for a variety of reasons I'll cover in later videos, but the pain is profound and leaves me weeping, and when I stand up, I usually have to make sure I've got my mouth firmly closed because there are involuntary screams much of the time. And when I wake up from being asleep, that's redundant, as opposed to waking up from being awake. As I wake up and regain consciousness after a nap or what have you, there's an initial reaction of, please God, no, don't, please just let me stay asleep. But the situation is what it is. And I don't have much in the way of material things to share with the world. I have virtually nothing. What I do have to share with the world is my love and my compassion. And I think perhaps that sharing my story from a very vulnerable and real place may be a compassionate act, in that if it helps someone understand the larger issues and advocate for change for their community, for their family, for their loved ones, for policy that affect everyone, that is a compassionate thing that I can do. And if I change one heart, one mind, and serve as part of a small, a small pebble on a big beach of people who are advocating for a more compassionate view, then it will have been worthwhile. So thank you, and namaste.